We are learning from imperialism. Looking at this demonstration for Latin America, it demonstrates imperialism. As I'm going to explain in this discourse concerning the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, President Monroe formed it in order to protect the newly identified Americans against imperialism of the Crown of England, of the East, their imperialism. The secret treaty of Verona that wanted to assume entitlement and power under status of unum sanctum over the whole fucking world. Ironically, they become the imperialist over the Americas. And I'm going to explain how. Under the guise of policing the Americas for injustice, immorality, bad behavior, wrongdoing. Like somebody sent the bat symbol up in the sky and they're just looking over Gotham City to swoop down and save the world from injustice and wrongdoing and evildoers. It's not a secret. Who put crack cocaine in American communities? Who gave little kids guns in North America to niggers to sell drugs to each other and kill each other off? It's not a secret. Who puts drugs in these communities? Who circulates through there? Who gets paid for it? Who benefits off of it? It's not a secret. There is no moral policing with white Christian nationalists. There's no such thing because they don't have the moral standing to do that. They're not in position to point the finger from a moral standpoint and say you're doing wrong and you should do right. You have to stop doing wrong first before you point your finger and say you're doing wrong and you should do right. Before you police other people and how they're treating the subjects of their society. How about how you treating the subjects of your society? Your elders, your veterans, your working class citizens. The fact that the men of your nation in North America can't find the confidence to get married, to buy a house, and to raise a family. They can't afford to. The fact that Americans can't even keep a car to drive without it getting repossessed. Americans are shook and terrified because the eviction notice was put on the door months ago and they can't catch up. Buy groceries or buy my medication. The senior citizens home is going to send grandma or grandpa home soon. What do? I don't even have a place to stay. This is a crisis of the American people. Nobody's getting married no more. Nobody's having babies. The society has given up on what love even means anymore. And you might think that this is a small, minute thing. But when boy is no longer engaging with girl in healthy ways, in natural ways, we're in crisis. We're in trouble. Your society doesn't have confidence in you as an administration. Every time they wake up in the morning, another decision was made without the people's consent. Every morning, big criminals and big crooks is getting away with billions and billions of dollars in doing crime, embezzling, scams, misappropriation of funds. But the little petty crimes of working class citizens has immediate repercussions. You're so worried about, oh, watch the Muslims, watch the Muslims. Oh, watch black people, they're gonna get you. The fear-mongering and the propaganda. But look what they still do all over the earth. Terrorizing. Taking, stealing, still pushing doctrine of discovery, still pushing manifest destiny, even till this day. And the imperialism of the Monroe Doctrine, telling the crown, don't touch them. Leave them alone. So that you can have exclusivity to all of their rewards, all of their fruits, all of the value that's underneath their feet. If you don't like their leaders, you just pluck them out. If their regime doesn't benefit you and fill your pockets, the monarchs, the oligarchs, the lobbyists, you pluck them out, you arrest them, and you tell the NPCs in the nation some sob story, some hero story, some justification. And the NPCs, oh, he's being a hero. He saved the world. Oh, those bad guys, they were doing crime. Gotta watch those drug dealers in South America, they'll get you. When are we gonna realize there's no boogeyman? There's no monster. The boogeyman and the monster, it's them. The one who says they're saving you from the boogeyman and the monster. It's like a predator at the park. Hey, come here, kid. Some dangerous people out here. Yeah. It's dangerous. These people, they're dangerous. They'll get you. Yeah, stay right here with me, kid. All along, he's the predator. Here, you want a piece of candy? Here you go, kid. Yeah, you like that? Yeah, but he's the predator. A republic naturally resists imperialism. There's a constitution with the republic. And through a constitution with a republic, there are limitations, restrictions, and accountability on all powers. There is priority to the citizens, to the people, as a trust. Equality is emphasized. With the emphasis of equality, it no longer remains compatible with policies of manipulation, coercion, and abuse of resources. A republic resists imperialism and the fact that it emphasizes self-determination. That's what we were learning from North Node Aries. Understand that self-determination, it's an immunity to exploitation. Avoiding the pathways that codependencies can take you down and being abused, exploited, manipulated. With a strong national identity, especially that's rooted in a culture that has not strayed far from its indigenous remembrance. There's always dignity. There's always pride. Wherever there's dignity, wherever there's pride, there is moral and ethical preservation. There is also family that stands to be preserved, and community. Healthy nations that honor a Republican disposition upon a constitution avoids the pitfalls of falling to legacies of inappropriate power and oppression. We can see how that's a problem when imperialists want to always assume entitlement over resources, and political regimes, and how they should operate, how they should be distributed. That was the problem with Napoleon Bonaparte, who pointed all of these things out, which is feedback of the fact that he was enlightened through his study of the life of Prophet Muhammad, Arahik al-Maktoum. That's what made him a problem. That's what makes Islam a problem. Islam articulates all these things down to the common person, making the common person equal to the one who enjoys higher status in society. Preventing the people from straying outside of practices of equity and common law, which is closer to the matriarchal nature that satisfies the family, the married man and the married woman, the mother and the father, the husband and the wife, the brother and the sister in community. Let me tell y'all something as y'all look at this, man. Democracy is very tricky. It's very tricky. It's very tricky. The reason it's very tricky is because it plays on sentiment. It plays on emotion. It plays on desire. I give an example. This is an example of how democracy works, or the situation when it comes to democracy of Monroe Doctrine, and the fact that at any given time they could just pluck niggas out and put the right, the one in that they want to change the regime. So check it out. Let's say you running your household, okay, and you running a tight ship. You telling your kids you got to go to bed on time, because you got school in the morning. No, you can't have ice cream before you eat your dinner. No, you're not allowed to watch, certain movies because that's for grown people. You're a child and you're going to watch something appropriate. You got these little rules. So you bust up in the house, you slap the taste out the father and tie him out, accuse him of all kind of things that, he probably, maybe he did or didn't do, whatever, but your aim is to get him out the way. So you tie the father up and you get him out of there. You can deal with the wife. She's inclined to her emotions, so it's very easy to manufacture a mindset out of her in any direction that you want it to go in, because she's inclined to her emotions. So that's nothing. So what you move to next is you have a household that's defenseless. You get the men out the way. So what do? You bring feminism into the situation. Oh, I know you didn't need to deal with your husband anyway. He wanted to control you. He didn't want you to spend the way you wanted to. He didn't want you to live the way you wanted to. He always questioning this and questioning that. Maturity would tell you that some of that had to do with the only way that he was able to give you protection and self-preservation, okay, as a man. But in immaturity, you would say, oh, it's controlling. So instead, he spoiled the person who ran in the house and got rid of the husband. Now he starts the process of spoiling the spirit of the woman. And so to spoil the spirit of the woman, they placate to her feelings and her desires, her Venus that is not guarded by a Saturn, her Venus that is not preserved by a Jupiter, her Venus that is not guided by a lunar light. You understand what I'm saying? So democracy is to approach the Venus of the people without Saturn, and that is dangerous. Because without Saturn, Venus can only spoil you. It can ruin your spirit. It's like, you start to indoctrinate that wife of that house in the absence of the husband with all types of ideals of feminism. You insert thoughts into her head that entertain to her lower base desires, that short circuits her maturity and prolonged thought or wisdom, to see the wisdom and the differences of her nature and the man's nature, and why, yes, although it's a challenge, you both benefit off the differences of each other's nature if you show each other submission. You understand what I'm saying? And so you start feeding her all that feminism stuff. So now she pumped up on all that feminism stuff. She's indoctrinated with all that feminism stuff, and her spirit's spoiled. Then you turn to the kids. Hey, I know you're glad your father's out of the way. Don't you want to eat ice cream all night? Shouldn't you have the right to eat ice cream first and eat your chicken and your collard greens and your beans last? Yeah, exactly. You don't have to eat vegetables. You don't have to go to bed on time. You should be able to stay up and scroll on your phone and watch any movie you want. Yeah, just have fun, kids. I don't know what's wrong with your parents. Something wrong with them. They just don't want you to have fun. They're evil. They're villains. So you start painting this picture by entertaining to the Venus of the people, the desires of the people. And you're giving out empty calories to the people. So instead of giving the people wholesome food, you're giving them hamburgers, you're giving them pizzas, you're giving them donuts, you're giving them brownies and sweet drinks and all these other things. It appears to be love. It appears to be care. It has a visual, it has optics, as if that could be a good thing. But the consequences proves that it only pushes you closer to death. It only pushes you closer to your own demise, and that's exactly how democracy works. Because the first step in democracy is to give power to the women of that society, because they're delusional with it. And then after you give power to the women of that society, the children are already ruined. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. That's how democracy works. And it's an illusion like they're making progression, where gays and females are the only ones who see opportunity in such a regime. And it trickles down to the ruin of the children, the division of the family, until you look up one day and you're just like America, okay? Where we can't seem to keep our families together. Households are divided. Families are separated. Nobody eats together. Nobody even knows each other. Man is scared of woman. Woman is scared of man. People are scared to even have a baby. And it starts with indoctrination of democracy. Venus without the Saturn. Before I even go in this, there are many ways to look at a single thing. There's many ways to look at the same thing. What my intention is I want to champion and speak for the matriarchal source, the matriarchal principle. And on behalf of Cancer, behalf of the fourth house, behalf of Luna, Yemeya, there's a particular perspective that I'm obligated to take. And that is the perspective that transcends illusions and gets straight to where the real sentiment should be in best interest of each people. Each people. I can relate to any people on the earth. I'm an Asiatic American. I'm an indigenous Native American. Chestnut tone skin, copper tone skin American. And with the history behind me, there's no people that I can't relate to and feel the pain of. I can relate to all people. I can empathize and find compassion for all people because of who I am and what's behind me with who I am. I'm able to do that. And I'm also to see through the illusions. When you look at the news, Venezuelans holding a flag up, cheering and clapping. Woo-hoo! Finally, somebody's done something. Trump is our hero. Hooray! Yes, I'm so glad. I seen the same thing with niggas, which lets me know not to take face value on what the fuck I'm looking at, because what I learned from my own people is you can cheer and clap your own demise. You can champion and cheer and clap for the very thing that works against you, that's not in your best interest, because of your ignorance, because your thought process was manufactured by the media, because codependency is a real thing, where your opinion is not from your heart, it's not from your conviction, it's not from truth that you are brave enough to find and align with. It's from the insecurity of being disconnected or rejected from those who hold and maintain status quo, popular opinion. And what's expected of us as a reaction. That's what democracy is all about. The manufacturing of the perception and sentiment of the people to own their emotional body. to own their reaction, to own their opinion, because you own their perception. That is democracy. So in looking at the reaction of Venezuelan people, that doesn't tell me how to judge. I've seen my own people do the same thing. What lets me know is history. Knowing who is who and what each character is always guaranteed to do and be. That's what really lets me know. When the same story is told over and over again and it doesn't even change. Oh, I know what's happened. Just like I see Venezuelans cheering, oh, finally somebody did something. It's a bunch of dumbass barbs who are cheering for Nicki Minaj right now, as she champions illusions of America having a moral conviction to go into Nigeria. But because this bitch is dumb as a box of fucking rocks and as contradictory as a preacher on a street corner looking for a crack rock, I know that there's more to consider than what I see. Let's look into this. Roosevelt Corollary, 1904. President Theodore Roosevelt. He made, in addition to the doctrine of the Monroe Doctrine, he made, in addition to the Monroe Doctrine, that the U.S. could at any time intervene in a military sense in Latin American countries in order to prevent European intervention. Understand, in order to prevent European intervention. That goes all the way to the UN. This basically it's like an abusive husband that takes his wife's, phone. She can't call out. She can't call, she can't call for help. She can't call her, but there's no intervention outside. It's just him in the household whooping her ass all over the place, and can't nobody intervene. Can't nobody jump in it. I'm gonna beat this bitch's ass, and can't nobody intervene or jump in it. We gonna be turning couches and knocking pictures off the wall, and can't nobody get in it. Which goes back to some of the questions in the air, where it was reported allegedly that Colombia was reciting the fact that as a bombing was going off in Venezuela, they're calling to check in. Yo, does anybody know what's going on? Who's doing this? You know, there was no notice or report, allegedly. Maybe it'll come out in the news, you know what I mean, that it went a different way. But so far, that's what I'm reading. And some may say, isn't that a violation of international law? Like, you know, no announcement, no nothing. You just gonna barge up in there doing what you want to do, kidnapping niggas. So that's what we on? You just running up in South America, kidnapping niggas. You just gonna take it upon yourself to justify whatever personal reasons whatever reasons you got of a moral argument, to justify what you admitted out of your lips is your greed. How many times did Trump let slip out of his mouth? He ain't let it slip. He just blatantly said it. It's oil. If we could count how many times this nigga said oil in the press release, the nigga said oil about 20 fucking times. Oh, Trump, so as far as the oil and leftover oil, you know, what's the deal with that? We're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna use it. Well, what about the ships that are? We're gonna keep that too. Got yourself a free ship, boys. Really? Everybody needs to be subject to policing. Everybody needs to be subject to scrutiny. Everybody needs to be subject to law, international law, accountability. There has to be accountability. This type of imperialism is dangerous. Somebody has to be able to check and give accountability where there is use of power. From Venezuela all the way to Nigeria, playing the moral police in front of the NPCs, the fucking dumbass airheads who believe everything that's coming out of their lips on face value, who worship celebrities and get spellbound in what message they're presenting to the people, ain't got a damn clue of what's going on in this world. Meanwhile, manifest destiny is all that's on the table. And consent was obtained through simply manufacturing your consent, through ownership of your sensory perceptions, the senses of your body, the triggers of your body emotionally, the ownership of your perception. Now, as I go into this discourse, Latin America doesn't have access to plea, complaint through international law. And as I said in the beginning, I can relate to all people. Because of the status that I was forced into, my people was forced into, as the only people on the entire earth who do not have a nationality, a proper nationality to claim. Until we do the due diligence to learn who we are, we're the only ones who were found with no flag or banner of our own. It was the very reason why Marcus Garvey came from Jamaica and gave us the red, black, and green flag. It's the same reason why Noble Drew Ali reintroduced us to the red flag with a 5-point green star that represents Venus of Islam. We're the only ones in the earth who's in that situation, where we as indigenous Native Americans were deliberately renamed or retitled and designated as Negro, Black, Colored, and African American, and titles of non-descent, disconnecting us from estate and our forefathers and the land rights as indigenous, not natives. The indigenous is both native and indigenous, while the native is native but not indigenous. There is a fucking difference. Why am I saying this? Because the futility of African American people, so-called, who answer to Negro, Black, Colored, or African American, can never do the proper thing, which is enter international law for their rights and proper status of nationality and status correction of a proper nationality and claim or reclaim of who they really are, of who we really are. So likewise, it is the same blockage for Latin America, who has a unique and peculiar situation where they cannot do this, where they're enabled in the same way because of the Monroe Doctrine. They have to take the bullying, they have to take the abuse, they have to take the mistreatment, because Monroe Doctrine does not allow European nations, which is consistent with the UN, to interfere with United States corporation policing and management of Latin America's regimes and policies. In other words, this is my home, and you cannot interfere with how I manage my home. Like Cool G Rap said, don't interrupt me while I'm beating my bitch. Don't interrupt me while I'm beating my bitch. That's what this is. I'ma slap this bitch around the way I want to all over the house. I'ma do what I want with her. But you gonna stay out of it. She gonna run that track, she gonna sell that pussy, and she gonna put the money in my motherfucking hand. And you ain't gonna say nothing about it. That's what was done to us as so-called Negroes. And that's what's done to those who are subject to the Monroe Doctrine of Latin America. I am seeing through the mother's eyes. I am seeing as the mother. I have the eyes of the divine mother, and I can see through the mother's eyes, because my heart weeps like a mother at what I see. I see through cancer. I perceive through cancer. I feel through cancer. My awareness is expanded by cancer. I see as the mother sees over humanity, as if they were my own children, and my heart aches for all of them. It's fucked up. And all it takes is for us to care. That's all it takes. Because when we start caring, that frequency comes together. And we bring down solution. We bring down power. We bring down authority. We bring down resistance. We bring down the cure. But not until our heart cries and bleeds for someone else other than ourselves. It won't happen until we learn to cry for someone else. Until we learn to grieve for someone else. Until we feel suffering for someone else. We are not feeling through cancer until we cry for others. What just went down with Trump going into Venezuela 2 o'clock in the morning on justification of moral intent, to bring justice to what he described as out of control operations and drugs. They stole fuel from us, so on and so forth. They speak with a forked tongue. You know what I mean? They speak with a forked tongue. They say one thing and mean another. Just like Nigeria. Oh, we gotta go and save the Christians. No Christian should be persecuted. No Christian should be done wrong. These people have no moral intent in their body. Nothing that they do has a mustard seed of moral intent. They have to talk to you in that language because you sucker enough to believe that. That's the food that you eat. That ain't the food that they eat. They don't eat the food of morals, values, principles, having a conscience, doing what's right or doing what's good, what is humanitarian, defending the weak, bringing justice to the... No, that has never been their intent, and it never will be. Which is why I will never be convinced that the founding fathers originated the essence of the Constitution, because it is not their nature. I will never believe that. It's not their nature. You got people like Nicki Minaj parading around the stage, basking in the attention of validation. And the brainless bitches that follow her, fucking airheads, falling all over themselves, not knowing that they're supporting outcomes like what we see, not knowing that they're enabling outcomes like we see, not knowing that they're putting energy and consent, emotional force behind these operations. Ignorance is dangerous. We're the ones out here that eat the food of sentiment, feelings, morals, do the right thing, once humanitarian, they don't think like that. So when you hear that language, it's politics. And the politics is, I'm trying to get that pussy, so I'm trying to tell you whatever you want to hear. That's basically what it is. How can I get that pussy? Oh, you want to hear that? Yeah, I'm going to tell you that. That's politics. Whatever get them draws off is what I'm going to tell you. That's politics. And we the people that continue to act like a dumbass broad, pulling your panties down for a nigga that don't mean shit for you. Get fucked in the ass and left wiping your ass 20 minutes later. Don't know what happened. That's what this is. It's a good way to get fucked and tossed aside. It's not about they're bringing drugs into the country. We want to protect the American citizens from drugs. Excuse me? You mean the same government that put crack and guns in my community as an 80s baby that I grew up my whole entire life seeing the turf wars over that? And we know who bought that shit in our community. We know who dropped it off. We know who gave it to us to sell. We know who gave us those guns, because we ain't have access to those guns. How they get there? We didn't know nothing about no crack. How they get in there? Not knowing that we were selling the drugs and buying the guns that was funding another dirty operation, Secret Wars. We're part of the triangle and didn't know it. Ignorance is dangerous. Let me put you on. Talk about the Monroe Doctrine all the time and the secret treaty of Verona. I be trying to put y'all niggas on, but y'all don't be listening. You know what I mean? Y'all think I be bullshit when I be talking about this shit. Two things I want you to think about with this whole Venezuela thing, right? It starts with the secret treaty of Verona, 1822. All right? Treaty of Verona. This is a European treaty. The whole point of this European treaty, which included Austria, France, Russia, Prussia, you know, it was called the Holy Alliance. And the point was for them to come together to help Spain to retain its colonies all throughout Latin America. Because, you know, Spain was putting a long dick up in the America's ass. Everybody who called themselves Hispanic has native and indigenous origins here in the Americas. That's not Spanish. It's not Spanish. It's not European. But the Spanish colonists took over vast majority of the Americas other than North America. Some parts of it, you know, if we consider the, you know, Louisiana Purchase and, you know, the sophistications with that between them and France, you know, all of those things. But anyway, Spain had Latin America on lockdown. All right? That's mostly South America and some of the islands, Caribbeans and all of that. And Austria, France, Prussia, and Russia They had an interest in that to come together to preserve that. Okay, because everybody got a stake in this new world over here that's making money. I mean, niggas is trading slaves, shipping off all kind of goods from the newfound world, the world that's new to them that they found. You know what I mean? We making money off of this. All kind of cash crops. Yeah, they banking. And with the Jewish slave traders who funded every slave ship that there ever was, okay, it was Jews, well, Jewish, the Khazarians, who pretend like they fucking Jews. They all was working together because the Jews was involved because they're the ones who had the connection to banking. And the banking was connected to Vatican and the Catholic Church. Okay? That's the bedrock between them and France. That was the bedrock of where, power and leverage was established for all of this activity between Europe and the Western world. The newfound world, to Europe's perspective, the newfound world. That they was, freshly dominating. This is the new cash cow. However, the Treaty of Verona came about because of a scare to the Europeans. What was the scare to the Europeans, if you remember me explaining? Okay? The scare to the Europeans, if you remember me explaining, it came from Napoleon Bonaparte. Y'all niggas listen. I keep telling y'all niggas this shit. Fucking Napoleon Bonaparte, alright? If you remember, what was his nickname? What was this nigga's nickname? I'll wait. Put it in the comments. Whatever. I want you to start fucking thinking. What did Napoleon Bonaparte call himself? What did they call him? They called him Little Muhammad. He was a Muhammad enthusiast. He looked up to Muhammad. He was jerking off to Muhammad. This nigga worshiped Muhammad. He was up all night doing TikToks on Muhammad. He was studying Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wanted to be just like him. He was salivating over Muhammad. He would look in the mirror. Oh, one day, please let me be like Prophet Muhammad. Oh, I want to be like Prophet Muhammad. Oh, I want to be like him. The nigga was going crazy off of Muhammad. That was his hero. What mindset did that lead him to? Why was that the case? Because it gave him insight into Republican power that he as an individual could claim for the people and himself. That is what's so threatening about Muslims. That's why white Christian nationalist men are terrified of Muslims. That's why they propagandize against Muslims. That's why they are scared shitless. They got a pound of shit in the drawers when it comes to Muslims. And it's not because Muslims are going to do any harm to anybody. It's because through Islam, there is a direct route to a true humanitarian and republican form of government for the people. Republican. When you finally put the pieces together, you're going to realize our leaders, our de facto government is anti-Republican. That's the point. After the Haitians whooped the French ass, what did they become? a republic. That's what they don't want. What is Haiti? It is a Latin territory. It's a Latin territory. It's one of the first Latin territories. Christopher Columbus came to Dominican Republic, came to Republic of Dominicana first. That is what they are scared of. That's what they don't want, the Republican form of government. But we have a misconception of what a Republican form of government is. We have a misunderstanding. We were miseducated about what it is. Napoleon Bonaparte gained that insight by studying Prophet Muhammad, because a Republican form of government, it's close to estate law practices, not policy. It directly reflects the essence, spirit, and intent of our own Constitution that the forefathers claim to have drafted. It is the humanitarian will. It is matriarchal essence that is expressed in laws, limitations, justice, public policies. I'm using the wrong word, not policies. Ordinances that are entirely matriarchal in its nature. And what is matriarchal has direct compatibility with ethical and moral intention, ethical and moral conscience, ethical and moral will and intent, ethical and moral consequence. What is matriarchal in its nature, it has its best interests in women and children. What has its best interests in women and children naturally has its best interests in the civilized status of the people. What has its best interest in the sensitivities and vulnerabilities of women and children naturally equates to equity law. But there's no advantage in such a society for the greedy, for the monarchs, and for the oligarchs. A Republican form of government is not suitable or compatible for monarchs and oligarchs, and that is the problem. Napoleon Bonaparte was a direct threat to monarchs and oligarchs, and it's only because he represented resistance through Republican disposition, Republican fight and demand, which is a matriarchal intention in resistance and revolution. The revolution was the coup d'etat against monarchs and oligarchs. The secret treaty of Verona was for Europeans to come together and conspire against anyone drafting, fighting for, or defending a republican status for themselves. There has to be a patriarchal form of government, and the patriarchal form of government does not have the living spirit of matriarchal intention in its core. Therefore, it becomes corporate in its essence. Corporate. And that which is corporate does not have law. That which is corporate has policy. Because that which is lawful is moral. That which is lawful reflects morals. There's a difference between lawful and legal. Look at the language. That which is lawful is moral. The patriarchal form of government which is a corporate status of governance. It has policy and not law because it is not moral. It goes against morals. Do we understand this? So the secret treaty of Verona was to make sure that the West did not turn back into a Republican status, because the entire West, all of the Americas, belonged to indigenous and natives. The indigenous were the copper tone and chestnut tone, such as myself, nappy-headed niggers, which were the original holders of the estate of North, Central, and South America. Dark brown people and black people. And the Native Americans were those Asians and Siberians who came in through Alaska. And also those Asians and Siberians who came off of ships in transatlantic slave trade. All of these tribes of the Americas were matriarchal, which is why all of the native tribes found here had republics. White men and Jews bought corporation, which reflected monarchs and oligarchs' form of governance, which is corporate policy, not law. The Constitution is a Republican expression because it's matriarchal in its will and intent. The 14th Amendment made sure that you use your own consent to bow yourself out of the covering of the Constitution. Therefore, on your own will, through subjugation of the 14th Amendment as a fictitious status, incorporated fictitious figure, you are subjugated to corporate policy rather than Republican status as a free as a national or as a private citizen. Especially the so-called Negro, African American, black colored person, who is the only one on the entire face of the earth who does not have a proper nationality to claim until he learns who he is, which is an indigenous Native American. And those tribes found under that banner. Napoleon Bonaparte scared the shit out of them, and they came together to make sure that there's no possibility that anybody could ever attempt to form a republic, because it's too difficult to penetrate a republic. It's too complicated. I can't keep a watch on everybody. I need to know what the fuck everybody's doing. That is the birth of what you call a democracy. That's what a democracy is. Democracy means that whatever white Christian nationalist men and Zionist Khazarians want you to do is what you're going to do, and you're going to do it with a smile. You're going to be who we want you to be, and you're going to do what we want you to do with your country, with your nation. You're not going to run it the way you want to. You're going to run it the way we want to. You're going to manage your country and your people in a way that makes us feel secure and hopeful. You're not going to do anything that makes us feel insecure or out of control. The moment we feel like we don't have total control over you and your people, your land and your resources, or influence over you, your people, your land, or your resources, it's a problem. And we can't do that if you take integrity and pride into a republic for yourselves. Because the republic looks out for the interests of the people and not for the powerful. It takes interest in the weak and the vulnerable, not the rich and powerful. And that's a problem for them. Napoleon Bonaparte picked it apart. He mobilized the people behind that spirit, and he went to war, and he got in their asses. And they can't have that again. And Islam taught them how to do it. Prophet Muhammad taught him how to do it. So 1823, you have the Monroe Doctrine. Okay, this is a year after the Treaty of Verona that I just got done explaining. Now, the Monroe Doctrine is named after James Monroe, okay? President James Monroe. And he introduced this policy. Notice, it's not a law, it's a policy, okay? Law goes with matriarchal. Policy goes with patriarchal. Law goes with republic. Policy goes with democratic de facto governance. You got to know the fucking difference. Understand? I just got done explaining the shit to you. Fucking listen. And so, Monroe Doctrine, 1823, James Monroe, he got wind of the intent of European countries through that secret alliance, the Holy Alliance of Austria, France, Prussia, Russia, and some others who wanted to help Spain to maintain control over the Latin nations of the West. However, James Monroe, seeing themselves now as Americans apart from the throne, they don't want that. And the reason they don't want that is because they want it for themselves. So the throne was already on the spread of the Spanish Inquisition in form. Listen to what the fuck I'm saying. Let me back up. Listen to what the fuck I'm saying. Europe was already pushing Spanish Inquisition under Pope Bull Unum Sanctum of Vatican. After expelling the Moors and the Jews out of Europe. And that victory claim 1492. Since that time, the Spanish Inquisition of Spain, the Catholic Church, it spread its dominion or dominance through what is called Doctrine of Discovery. Okay? Doctrine of Discovery is the active of Spanish Inquisition through international territories. Okay? Fucking listen. Doctrine of Discovery. In other words, off the muscle of the Catholic Church and Pope Bull, the Jewish Khazarians, who fund and finance the Vatican itself, the transatlantic slave trade operations, and international maritime operations, them working together with European explorers and conquistadors, Spanish, French, and English. Their job is to spread the crown and the will of Spanish Inquisition as Doctrine of Discovery. Which means if you pull up on niggas and you want the land, take that motherfucker. And if they say something, Let us know and we come out there and bust their ass and we'll take it. Go and explore, ride out into the West and find out what the fuck you could take and steal. That's what that shit was about. Europeans and Jews scouting the earth to steal land, to steal treasures, to kidnap people, to enslave people, to spread diseases, violence, and destruction with a cross. Ironically, with a cross. Handshakes and treaties that they did not honor. That was the trend that got them there in the first place. The doctrine of discovery. It was America that specified manifest destiny thereafter. Doctrine of discovery. So doctrine of discovery went with the European alliance. Manifest destiny went with those who called themselves now Americans, who pushed out from the East Coast to the West Coast and South. Okay? Do we fucking get it? And manifest destiny is to spread over the Americas and take claim. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So Spanish Inquisition, Europe, they get on the fucking ships and spread that shit, doctrine of discovery. Wherever they ship pull up, they feel entitled to it, and they use violence to take it. And they lie about how they got it, and they lie on the people that they stole it from. And manifest destiny was when Americans took the same habit and formula for themselves of European settlers of the Americas specifically, spreading that west and south in the Americas and north too eventually. That was manifest destiny. All right, so I'm building this up. Being that they were in operation of manifest destiny, while simultaneously setting themselves apart from the crown, they wanted to make sure that the European alliance did not assume entitlement over their land, their booties, which is, the rewards of war and conquering, the territory that they assumed entitlement to, the estate that they were claiming of the West. They wanted to claim the entire domain of the West for themselves. And they did not want interference from the crown. They did not want interference from the European alliance because they set themselves apart. They wanted to have full assumption of entitlement over the entire West as the new established American authorities, conquistadors and settlers and colonists, basically Christian white men. Okay? So the Christian white men of the West, of the Americas now, wanted to set themselves apart from the crown. All right? So it's like, we ain't looking out for Spain. We ain't looking out for Europe. We looking out for us, and we don't want y'all in our business. This is ours. We got this, and we need you to stay out of our business. So that was the Monroe Doctrine. And the Monroe Doctrine, it said that we assume right and entitlement to police the entire North, Central, and South America. Not only do we have entitlement to police it, we also have entitlement to replace or make modifications to any assumption of governmental structure, infrastructure, or regimes in order to maintain a regime that is compatible with our will and with our securities or not. And the problem that they had with any regime, it always manifested when it came to a Republican form of government. So anytime a regime reflected a Republican form of government, that's when it became a problem. And this is very familiar, okay, with what happened back, in 1822 with the Treaty of Verona and what Napoleon Bonaparte ended up doing, okay? Because they didn't want a memory of what Napoleon Bonaparte pulled off to end up taking place here in the West, where some Republican hero rises up and, gives power to the people, and now they're resisting and, they're having a hard time policing and maintaining. So they have to maintain a single regime or a single state of consciousness all over the Americas of the Latin world. So anytime somebody rises up to bring the people back toward a Republican form of government, it sends the alarm off to these insecure white men. And these insecure white men who are managing the Americas, they assume entitlement to come and replace whoever is leaning the people toward a Republican form of government. Now, what do I mean by a Republican form of government? Anytime the form of government begins to reflect a matriarchal will that looks out for the best interests of the weak, the meek, or expresses a sense of justice and fairness with the people concerning the resources, it has to remain in a compatible form of government, democratic, as I explained to you. Don't go to what you thought was democratic. Go to the proper understanding of democratic, which is compatibility with corporate policy. Okay? You got to get this through your fucking head. The compatibility with corporate policy is what is democratic. In other words, you tell people what they need to hear so you can fuck them. You get in front of the cameras and the microphone and you massage their emotions. You tell them all the sweet nothings. You use the right words, the right language, and the right images and media and everything else to make them think that you're giving them what they're asking for. You brainwash the people to make them use their own mouth for their destruction. You take control of the people's sensory perceptions of their nervous system so that their own emotions begin to betray them. It's a witchcraft that you subject the people to in a regime of democracy, where you're manufacturing the consent of the people. You're manufacturing the opinions and thoughts and outlooks of the people. How many of y'all niggas out there fell for the shit that Charlie Kirk and Erica Kirk was doing? Yeah, that is the magic. How many of y'all fell for Nicki Minaj because she got this long ass black weave? She's pretty. She's parading across the stage talking like she fucking 14 years old. But you never use your logic and your wisdom to calculate what's really happening in front of your face. That you have a rapper whose music ruined an entire generation of females born in the 80s and 90s, corrupted them, married a sex predator, and her brother's a sex predator. And then the bitch is not a foundational black American, but a Trinidadian. But she's supposed to be a spokesperson and a voice for Christians? How fucking dumb can you get? How fucking brainless can you get? You looking at Erica Kirk every time you turn around with her fucking crocodile ass tears and that fake ass crying. That's democracy. Democracy is a game of brainwashing and ownership of your sensory perception, ownership of your emotions, ownership of your thought, ownership of your convictions and perceptions. But the moment somebody gets up there and disillusions the people, gives it to them straight, leans them toward a Republican form of government in which the responsibility is on the people, and there's consequences that make sure that there's a preservation of security, justice and order in the society, and that the matriarchal architects, figures, and images of the society are preserved and honored, that culture is preserved and honored, and the indigenous are not overlooked. The best interest of the youth is not overlooked, of women and children is not overlooked, and the resources of the country begins to serve the people of the country and not a means of being exploited for furtherance of monarchs and oligarchs with white skin to come and confiscate it and get their cut that happens to be bigger than your cut. That becomes a problem. So the Monroe Doctrine was to make sure that they could interfere anytime they varied off from the program, which was, don't take care of you, take care of us. So anytime I see, it's basically me policing the Latin Americas to make sure that there's no form of government in which they start to take care of themselves. But I get my cut first. Your resources benefits me more than it benefits you. Your money pays me more than it pays you. I don't want you to take the excess of your country's resources and gains and benefit the people, secure the people, bless the people with it. I need it to come straight to my bank account, not yours. Not the poor, not the weak, not the vulnerable. The Monroe Doctrine is to police Latin America to make sure that the resources are not paying for the poor, the weak and the meek and the vulnerable, the defenseless, to be able to have medical care, to have housing, to have decent food, to have food, clothing, shelter, the basic necessities of life, to have dignity, some independence, so on and so forth. Instead, I need the excess of the resources of your country, of your land, and of your work and your labor. I need it come to straight to my bank account. And that's why it has to be a democracy, because all of the policies have to keep me in the status of a monarch and oligarch and not preserve the status of the matriarchal figures of your society, women and children. That's the Monroe Doctrine. To keep the indigenous of the Latin Americas poor, scared, weak, hungry, embarrassed, humiliated, head down, hopeless of the future, fighting each other, scrounging for scraps. Meanwhile, the resources of the land, the resources of these societies, these nations are plenty to bless the people. But they have to have a Republican form of government for it to benefit the people. And the Monroe Doctrine makes sure that only white Christian men of North America get to benefit from it. Only they get the excess. Only they get the reward. Only they get the big chicken. They get the big biscuit, they get the big chicken, and you get the fucking leftovers. And if you change that recipe, we're coming in there and we're gonna fucking get you. We're coming to get you. That's the Monroe Doctrine. It's a pimp that keeps his bitch weak and broke. You will never leave me, bitch, because you're broke. You're always gonna need me, bitch, because I'ma slap the taste out of your mouth and I'm taking all your money. I want my money in my motherfucking hand. You're gonna get out on that track, you're gonna sell that pussy, and you're gonna bring that money back and put it in my motherfucking hand, bitch. I'll buy you a sweater when it get cold. I'll buy you a sandwich when you get hungry. But you're gonna get out there and you're gonna sell that pussy for me. And I bet not hit no kind of lip about it. And you better put my money in my hand, bitch. That's the Monroe Doctrine. It's policing his hoes. Policing his hoes. And making sure that they running on that track and that money comes straight to their hand and not nobody else's. It's pimping at its finest. So do we understand about the secret treaty of Verona and the Monroe Doctrine? Are we gonna start paying attention? I'm not saying you got to be watching the news all the time and all these other things, but you got to test yourself to see. Do you have the ability to see yet? Do you have discernment? Do you understand the story out here in this life? Do you see why they so scared of fucking Muslims? Why they always propagandizing against Muslims? Yeah, because white Christian nationalist men and Jews have always worked together. They have always worked together in power, in the upper ranks. So they have a common enemy. Niggas are enemies. They have to keep the black male down because that's the one who Jews got the start off of. Black men of the Americas, black people of the Americas, the indigenous Native Americans of North America and some parts of South America too, the estate holders that Jews turned into T-bonds to not only bail out the Vatican, but to establish central banking, international, an infrastructure of banking, centralized banking that's predatory in its nature. We are the T-bonds. The ones who they converted from Indians into Negroes according to the Christian black codes. The ones whose identity they change over and over and over and over and over and over again. You're a Negro. Now you're nigger. Now you're black. Now you're colored. Now you African American. According to Skull and Bones 5013C, Jesse Jackson was pressed by 5013 Skull and Bones to call us African Americans. Why? Because Noble Drew Ali was already pushing the threat. The threat of making us aware. And in the 70s and 80s, it started to accelerate far too fast because at the same time, the Nation of Islam and Marcus Garvey's teachings was circulating far too fast to keep up with. So they had to do it about face. I know the fucking story, nigga. I know what the fuck going on. Do you know what the fuck going on? Oh, despite the 13% of the nation. I mean, black men, they're just so violent. Oh, they're dangerous. They're murderers. Just senseless. It's always them. Yeah, it's always them. But ain't nobody say nothing about the fact that there's 76 white men are 76% of pedophiles. Kitty porn. Child predators. Playing with little kids. Playing with little girls. Playing with little boys. Call me a murderer all day. Call me a killer. Call me a drug dealer. Call me dangerous. I will wear that name. I will wear that reputation gladly. Anything to go down in the history books as a fucking pedophile, a kitty predator. Who commits statutory rape on children in elementary school level more than white women? Who does that more than white women? So niggas don't want to go there with statistics. Niggas don't want to go there with with who is really who in society. Charlie Kirk's whole mission going from campus to campus spewing out stupidity tells a portion of the story that still begs to be properly interpreted. But if you start telling the whole story with two eyes instead of one eye, you got to tell everything, not some of it. So after you get done telling on black people about how violent we are, what we got going on, yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that on the chin. And I don't mind admitting that, yes, we do have a problem when it comes to this senseless violence, drug dealing. Ain't no shame in my game. It's a lot of truth to it. But you got to tell the other side that the other eye sees too. What are you doing as white men? You know so much about what we doing, but what you doing? Playing with little boys? Playing with little girls? Watching kitty porn? Getting pregnant by kids in the 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade? A little slap on the wrist? But you pregnant by a 13-year-old? Are we going to tell the whole fucking story, or are we going to tell half of it? Oh, those Muslims, they're trying to take over. Yeah, they're trying to take over, yeah. Oh, we ain't going to have a country after a while. They're violent, they're dangerous. Oh, we better watch out. Who's scared of Muslims? Who the fuck is scared of a Muslim? Nobody. So that can only lead to one thing. Your conscience is telling on you about yourself. You're self-projecting. Realizing that you are the terrorists of the earth. You are the one who spreads terrorism throughout the earth. And it's your legacy. It's your resume. It's your history. It's your nature. It's the pattern that you're guaranteed to do over and over again. And guess what? You did it last night, 2 o'clock in the morning. In Venezuela. You're guaranteed to continue to be that person while accusing others of being exactly who the fuck you are. A terrorist.